It's time for one of our local hockey spotlights, and you may recall during last season we were talking about the Cape Breton Jets of the Nova Scotia Major Under-16 Hockey League. This year we wanted to focus on the other Cape Breton team, the Cabot Highlanders, joined now by Jesse MacLean, the head coach of the Highlanders. Jesse, what are your thoughts on the year thus far for your team?
It's definitely been an interesting year for sure. The standings haven't gone the way that obviously any coach would want, but we started the year with 17 new players. I'm not going to lie and say that I didn't expect a little bit of time to kind of get everything going and get everyone situated and adjusted to the league. We have a lot of Bantam AA kids coming to us this year, along with a few from the Major Bantam program, and actually only 2 returnees from our team last year. It's a big jump even from Major Bantam and Bantam AA to our league, and I think it might be a little bit of a bigger jump than a lot of people might think. There were some growing pains along the way. We had a tough start, which kind of put us behind the 8 ball right off the hop. We've been playing a lot better lately. We're coming off a 4-point weekend this past weekend, actually against the Jets, along with playing some competitive games against some of the top teams in the league. The results are the results, but what I'm looking at right now is a lot of development stuff and finding a way to continue to get better, even in those tough days early on in the season, which I give all the credit to the boys. They kept pushing and they kept coming to the rink every day with a kind of a reset factor that no matter what happened the day before, they were ready to go again today in hopes to help our future change, which is what we've seen the last few weeks. I'm preaching to the boys. I know it's a cliche. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, but it's the truth. And the fact that we're starting to play a lot better makes me as a coach feel very good going into our final couple weekends as we get ready for playoffs.
U16 League is still relatively new in the scope of things in Nova Scotia. 6th season for the league, and essentially functions as a development for the U18 League. Just talk a little bit about the relationship your club has with the Cape Breton West Islanders. Would you be a straight-up farm team for them? Off mic, you were saying that the Islanders were somewhat instrumental in the Highlanders coming into the league.
You said it best, and it's kind of the best way that I've put it to anyone that's either just had outside questions or inquiring about their kids playing here, is that it's a farm team for the major midgets. We want to win, and we want to develop our own kids internally, but at the end of the day, it's a development league, and we're here to develop as many players that want to make it to the next level. As far as my relationship with Cape Breton West, I give a lot of credit to them. Ever since I've come on board now 4 years, it was previously, you know him very well, Nick McNeil, who's now your assistant coach. He was the head coach there for my first 2 years with Cabot. And then Kyle Gillis, who has taken over last year. We've been working together the past 2 seasons, and I give a lot of credit to them for not only helping our program, but especially helping me as a coach as well. I always will give a lot of credit to Nick. He was very open, and as far as letting me come on the ice with them and help them with practices from time to time, just giving me little details to kind of help me expand my coaching horizons and my coaching options. And then as far as the whole program itself, they affiliate probably 5 or 6 players every season, and they try to get them all up at some point for at least a couple practices and even a couple games. For example, right now, one of our goaltenders, Oliver McDonald, has been called up to the West for this week and potentially next week, just with the fact that Raya Stewart's away at Canada Games. They have been very helpful with us as far as giving us different ideas as what we can do internally as far as our own organization, and then obviously helping us help our kids get to their level.
We talk about the Islanders and Rush. That's in the U18, which is 15 to 17-year-olds, and the U16 is all 15-year-olds, but you have 16-year-old overagers the same way that Major Junior has 20-year-olds. If someone were coming out to watch the Cabot Highlanders, who were some of the key players on your team to watch?
I give a lot of credit, especially early on when we were kind of finding our way and getting our feet wet. The first 2 I would like to mention are our goaltenders. Oliver, as I mentioned, is a first-year player this year. He took some time, like every other first year did, to get used to the league, but I give a lot of credit to him even when times weren't going so good for him. He kept himself in it as far as practice, and thankfully for Oliver and for us, he's getting results he worked for all year is probably the best way to put it, so I'm happy to see there. And then Manny Strong is our other goaltender, and people in Sydney would be familiar with him. He's actually from New Waterford. He actually played for the Jets last year, and he ended up making his way down to us this year, and he's been a big part of the wins we have gotten, and even the games we didn't win that we were in, he's been in for a lot of them, and he's kind of kept everything kind of calm, cool, collected at the back end when things might be kind of going array, and he's been a professional through and through. So a couple first years that I'm very impressed with would be Owen Bell from Antigonish. He's a 2-year Nova Major Bantam who was a late cut from the Cape Breton West Islanders this year, and we kind of got him this year. And I mean all the respect to him, as he's been a very pleasant surprise. I didn't know much about him coming from the Novas other than a few tidbits from his coach, but he is really, as a first year player, kind of taken off. He's averaging over a point per game. He's a power play guy, PK guy. He's a guy that we have relied on a lot all throughout the year, and we will continue to going into to playoffs. Josh Gillis and Landon Webb, who would also be two more Nova Major Bantam players coming to us. They took some time, like everyone does, to get used to the league and stuff, but it's really been good to see how much they've expanded their game, continue to do so on a day-by-day basis. And then Gavin McLaughlin, he's actually our captain this year. He actually lives in Dingwall, so he travels probably about 3 hours each way to practice 2 times a week, and then on the weekend. That in itself is very impressive, but for me as a coach, it's his offensive game and his defensive game. I knew Gavin from last year. He was a very reliable defensive player, but I actually had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago about how impressed I was with how much work he's put in and how from that work, the results he's got on the offensive side of the game is he's up to almost a point per game as well, where he didn't so much see that scoring side come out in his first year, but coming back to us again this year, and a lot of it I attest to his confidence has really helped his game on both sides of the puck.
People may know your name, Jesse MacLean, because there was a great article on you in the Cape Breton Post, an inspirational story. You are, we can say, for now, cancer-free from testicular cancer, and you said the game of hockey was a big factor in you fighting that battle. Just for those that didn't read us, give us a shorter version of your very inspiring story.
I'll start off with an even better story, as I actually had a checkup this past Monday with my oncologist. I have scans every 6 months for probably at least the next decade or so, and the latest scans have showed no signs of cancer whatsoever, and the coast is clear for now. I don't know if I'll ever officially come out and say I'm cancer-free, and I think that might just be my anxiety, but as of right now, and it looks pretty good going forward, is the latest scans have given me a clean bill of health, which is something that is a big thing to get off my chest, because every time scans come around, I don't know if you've ever heard the term scan anxiety. It's definitely a thing, but to have that kind of off my chest now is a big thing for me going forward. Actually, 2 days before Christmas, I was diagnosed with stage 2B non-seminoma testicular cancer. If I'm being honest, I was just in the shower one night, cleaning myself like everyone else does, and I felt something that didn't quite feel right. Between talking to my family and my girlfriend, and we jumped on it right away, and I got in to see my family doctor. And I have always said, and I always will say it, I give all the credit to my doctors, because if they wouldn't have jumped on it as fast as they did, who knows what could have happened. Short story, I ended up having surgery last January to remove the tumor. I ended up going through chemotherapy April to June, because unfortunately it had gotten out into one of my lymph nodes in my abdomen. It was scary to hear, obviously, when you initially think that it's no more than just in your testicle and everything's good, to have that thrown at me a few months later. It was tough, but it was at the same time, the cure rate and success rate was still very high, and that's kind of what I held on to and got through those tough couple months. And this is now 3 scans since chemo. Everything's been all good. That part that really was not fun from April to June last year makes it all worth it.
That's the best news we're going to hear on the broadcast at any point this season.
I appreciate it.
Wish you all the best going forward. We know it's a competitive league, and hopefully all the best for the Highlanders the rest of the season. Thanks for telling us all about it, Jesse.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate it.
That's Jesse MacLean. He is the head coach of the Cabot Highlanders in the Nova Scotia Major U16 League. You're listening to the intermission of Cape Breton Credit Union Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.